I'm Chris Thomas, and this is Master Class. The material on this videotape is the material you need for 9th Q, the first level of white belt. When you are under stress, you regress. And so that means that the material on this tape is the most important material you'll ever learn, because you will always regress to what you learned first. It becomes essential that what you learn first is good, solid karate that really, really works. This is the weakness in a lot of styles. A lot of systems, classical systems, teach wrong at first until a student reaches some point where they're supposedly worthy to learn the real secrets of the art. At that point, they're taught the real use of the techniques. Unfortunately, if they are under stress, they're not going to use what they learned after 20 years of training. They're going to use what they learned the first day. So we're trying to make it so that you learn good habits immediately, right from the beginning, so that if you're ever in a situation where you have to defend yourself, you're going to use techniques that really work. Maybe you'll have later on, years from now, developed an incredible repertoire of really sophisticated techniques. You get attacked, you forget them all, and you find yourself doing your white belt techniques. Well, those white belt techniques better be good, and so this becomes incredibly important. The other thing that makes this tape so important is that on this tape we'll lay the foundation for everything. All of your body mechanics, all of your breathing, everything comes down to how good is your basic understanding of how your body works and how your body moves. If you have that as a foundation, you can do karate your whole life. I don't know the number of times I've met people who have trained in martial arts for 20, even 30, 40 years, but they didn't learn good foundation karate to begin with. And they were struggling years later with the stuff, not able to perform the things that you're going to see right now. And I personally have taught many, many black belts with decades of experience how to do the things that I'm showing you on this tape. You're going to learn them from the beginning, from day one. And that's much better than being in the martial art for a couple of decades, 25, 30 years, and not know this, and then have to try to learn it and overcome decades of bad habits. We're going to get you started right. In the Ryukyu Kempo Tomarite system, the most basic thing we do is a punch, the basic punch, and that's true of every system. It's its most basic technique. Our basic punch is a little different and actually sets us apart from everybody else. Let me just quickly show you what everyone else's punch looks like. From in front, I would stand this way. See how my hand is right dead center of my body and my palm is facing the floor, and then I would do that. And notice how my hands switch over, and from the side you can see exactly the same thing, just like that. And you've seen that in every karate movie, you've seen that in any karate school you've ever visited. We don't punch that way. That punch was developed so that school children would not hurt each other. That punch is so you don't hurt the person you're punching. It's like a safety protection, so that in a class you don't get injured and you don't injure somebody else. But that also means that if you have to use that in self-defense, it won't work. It won't work. Biomechanically, it's not sound. The muscle structure of the arm is wrong. The structure of the bones in the arm is wrong. The position is wrong. You can't hit with power here. So this is the correct way to punch. The hand begins at your hip, about the place where your elbow touches your hip, which on me is about the top of my hip bone. I put my fist there. I don't really worry very much about whether this palm is up nicely or if it's maybe a little bit at an angle. What I care about is my back elbow. I don't want my elbow sticking out. I want my elbow tucked back slightly. I get a feeling as if I'm pulling my elbow back and slightly towards the center of my body. This keeps what's called closing the armpit. This keeps the muscles in my armpit, the latissimus dorsi in the back and the pectoralis major in the front, keeps them tight. Keeps my shoulder from rising up, my elbow from flopping out. You can always tell somebody whose technique is wrong if you see them do this. If you see reaching with the shoulder, if you see the elbow flopping out like that, that's always wrong. Good technique is very close to the body. It's also very noisy. Makes a lot of noise because it rubs. Now you can see already that on my punch, I'm at a 45-degree angle, and I'm not dead center. I'm off to the side, about just so that the edge of my hand is even with the edge of my body. This is biomechanically a strong place to be. From the side, you can see that the punch comes out and it turns, and then right at the end it does that little teeny motion of down. That's incredibly important. What happens is I think as I punch, as if I'm punching right where these two fingers come together. I make that my imaginary point of contact, and I try to line that point right there up with this bone in my arm, the bone on the thumb side, which is called the radius. It's a pretty solid bone. The bone on the other side, called the ulna, is kind of thin, so we line that point up with the thick bone, and if you look at it from the side, what you can see is that there's kind of a flare. As the fist spreads, it spreads evenly in both directions. It's like a little triangle. You see that little triangle right there. Now if I do this, see a lot of styles they teach, see how flat that is on top? Well, look, there's no triangle. The triangle is bent. What'll happen is if I hit something, my wrist will actually buckle. And that's probably why it's taught like that. So that, again, if your wrist buckles, you can't hit too hard. It's a way of protecting people. But this motion right here, this allows a very solid, substantial impact. When I hit, it does not collapse. The power is absorbed. So I hit at that angle, but then right at the end, with this spread of the hand, I'll do just, boom, that. Just like that. Now there's a reason, and the reason is that we actually have this one basic technique is really more than one technique. It's really two techniques. One is a power punch. In a power punch, you must have an ideal structure so that the force is evenly distributed into the bone of the forearm. You don't want anything to give. You don't want to hit somebody very hard and have your hand collapse and open. You just end up hurting yourself. It's got to be solid. It's got to be strong. And then there's this motion on the end. That action right there, that's called energy transfer. That puts energy into a target, and it also does something very interesting. It takes the force which is going this way and turns it down. That's actually for use in close range. So this one punch has a power element. You hit very, very hard, boom, and then it also has this thing on the end. What that allows you to do is it allows you both to hit very hard, if that's what you need to do, but also in situations where you don't have maybe the room to create power, because power is a function of speed and distance. You need distance to create power. If you want to hit hard, you got to move your arm a greater distance, you have to move your body a greater distance. If you're close, you can't get as much power, but this allows you to accomplish something. Harvey, come here for a second. Let me just show you what I mean on a body. This is real easy. If he's strong in the stomach, and I can hit him pretty hard, and I'm not going to go full out because he's not wearing armor, and we always wear protective equipment, but I can hit him pretty hard. And you see, I'm hitting him from here. I'm not going to get much effect. What if I was just here? And I can't get much of a technique out of that. I can't get much of a technique, but if I put this motion in, that motion, that's what does it. It puts the energy into his body. So that's why when we punch, we come straight out, and then we do that at the end. And it depends. If I'm hitting really hard, I'm back here and I'm going to unload on this guy. My hand will not do that. It can't. The minute I connect and all that force comes back up into my arm, my body will naturally go to and maintain the strongest position. But if I'm right here, we're standing in this close, I don't have the room to wind up or the time. All I can do is, bam, put a quick shot. Then my hand will allow that motion, and that motion will put him down just as surely as the big old power punch. So the nice thing about our punch is that it has both elements to it. It has both the power technique and it has the close range technique, because you don't know where you're going to be. Now, think about this and you'll understand the wisdom of it. I could train two separate techniques. I could go, okay, here's my power punch, boom, boom, boom. All right, and then I could have a totally different technique. Here's my close range punch, bah, bah, bah. When we put them together in one smooth and continuous motion, every time I train every punch, I train both methods. So no matter what happens, if I punch, It's going to be one or the other, and it flows naturally. If I hit with a power punch, I just won't be able to pull this motion off. That won't happen. But if I'm not hitting that hard, and I'm trained to do this, I'll do it, and he'll drop. So that's the wisdom of that technique. Let's break it down very carefully. First, just one-handed. Again, we start with the hand near about near where the elbow falls. Sometimes people get a little too close to the front. It's good to just come right down halfway back on your body, your elbow's tucked in, and you punch. And as you punch, the hand shoots forward. See, it's off center, and it right more towards the end makes this turn, and then there's the little flexion with the wrist. And from the side, you see this. I shoot this out. Boom. Okay. Be a little bit careful about turning too soon. If you turn too soon, it will tend to bring your elbow out. Be careful about not turning enough or turning too much. Your body knows, in fact, this is when you drive a car. This is about where you would be when you drive a car. It's the same position. This is ergonomically natural, and that's what we're going for. Now, when we punch, we don't actually just move one hand, we move two hands. And so the way we practice is we put one hand out in the punch position, the other hand at our hip, and then we just punch. Back and forth. Now, can you hear the sound? I don't know if the microphone picks it up, but there's sound of my arm rubbing. You don't see any daylight. There's no daylight like that. See, it's completely tight. Also notice my shoulders are not up, but down like this, held down. In fact, I pull slightly. Now, when I punch, I do not think to myself, punch, 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 punch. Actually, I'm thinking about my elbow. I think about pushing my elbow out. I do not think about my fist. I'm not hitting with my fist. I'm driving my elbow forward. Likewise, when I pull my hand back, I don't think pull my hand back. I think pull my elbow back. Let me show you how that works. Harvey, come here again. Now, you're going to see this is really simple. If I grab him and I go to pull him and I think about my hand, what's going to happen is my body is going to open itself up. You can see how it, I'm pulling back and I have no strength. Now I grabbed him, I forget about my hand, I don't care about my hand. All I'm going to do is think about my elbow. See, I'm just pulling my elbow. That's just, I don't care, my hand is not important. I grab, I lock, I forget my hand. I just take my elbow close to my body and just draw it back to my hip. And it's much stronger. Now, I'm not saying that he couldn't resist that. I'm just saying it's much stronger. It's mechanically better. It's also mentally better. By keeping my mind off my hand and moving it to another part of my body, I'm simply more efficient. Thank you. So when I punch, that's what I do. So our first basic technique is a basic punch. Our next technique that we're going to talk about is an upward punch, what you might call an uppercut. It's called agizuki. It means rising punch. It starts in the same place, and it just shoots this way. Notice that it has kind of an angle to it. It doesn't come up straight. It kind of crosses on a line, because it's natural for it to cross on a line. You never violate nature. A lot of styles will violate nature. They do things, you know, that look pretty, but they're awkward on the body. This is perfectly and completely natural. It comes from here, boom. Now you notice at this point I'm putting a little snap into it. I'm shooting it up, pulling it down. You don't need to. Just fire it up and leave it there. Notice the angle. Can you see that 45-degree angle again? You notice I'm not really trying to put this flexion of the wrist in here on this one. I'm just shooting this one up at a 45. Up at a 45. This is definitely a close range technique. Specifically, it's aimed into the neck area and the soft part under the jaw. It's not meant for punching. Well, you can punch the bone of the jaw, but basically we avoid punching the head. We avoid punching the head. Karate is supposed to be a life protection art. If I punch somebody in the face, break my hand, end up with arthritis in my hand 50 years from now, even if I won the fight 50 years ago, it was not a life protection art because my life has been affected by that. So I don't want to do anything that's going to damage my body because let's face it, the amount of time I spend actually defending myself compared to the amount of time I hope to live is very tiny, maybe none at all. I mean, God willing, I'll never have to defend myself. Then maybe I busted my hand in training, though, because I hit somebody in the face. It's not a life protection art if it affects your life in a negative way down the road. So everything must be natural, and everything must be with safety and not only the immediate effectiveness of the technique, but also its long-term implications. We've got to keep that in mind at all times. So we punch, we let it follow a natural motion. It just is natural. We don't try to fight it. natural. In fact, lots of times, if you even think about it, it gets in the way. Sometimes you don't even think. You just figure, push my elbows forward, rub against the side of my body, and everything else will just happen. You don't have to worry about it. Next technique. We're now into a group of techniques called uke waza. The word uke means, literally, it means to receive. I find that that's not a very useful terminology, and so I'm going to use the word counter instead all the way through. Whenever I talk about uke waza, I use the English word counter. The first uke waza is called Geidan Barai uke. Geidan means lower level, Barai means to sweep, and uke means to counter. So it's downward sweeping counter. First, let's do it with just one hand. If I do it with just my right hand, I take my right hand and I bring it up here, like as if I was going to stick my finger in my ear, and then I'm going to swing my fist like that. And notice how it just kind of about to the edge of my body. My hand turns over. It kind of looks like I'm hammering on something from here. Now, one thing I want to point out, do not do this. I don't know if you can see that, but what happens, what I'm doing there is I'm thinking about my fist. Don't think about the fist. Pull the elbow. Pull your elbow down. Pull your elbow down. Pull your elbow down. Now, if I do it with my other hand, I take my left, like I'm going to stick my left finger in my right ear. Same thing. I pull my elbow down this way. Just give you a quick look from the side. See, it's kind of a, what's that, about a 30-degree angle. It's not a terribly steep, it's not way out here, but I'm not down here like I'm trying to knock something away from my body. It's just comfortable. This is a comfortable angle. Now, as we perform the technique, we do it with two hands actually. So for practice, we start right hand up, left hand out. Now watch, I'm going to pull my left hand back as I bring my right hand down. Like that. See that? Together. Let's get a side view. You can hear it's got two motions. And even if I do it fast, it's still got two beats. In fact, there's a limit to how fast I can do the move, because I have to go in two directions. I got to go this way and then that way. So there's limits to how quickly I can pull that off. I can do each half fairly rapidly, but there's a limit to how quickly I can get both of those moves in there. So this technique takes a certain amount of time. There's not much you can do about it. The main thing is to relax. If you relax, you'll be faster. The next of the basic uke wazas is called chudan uke. Chudan means middle level. So it's a middle level counter. It's performed this way. Again, let's just start with one hand. I'm going to take my right hand, just bring it across my body, and then, hardly matters, because depending on application, you might be palm down, or you might be like this, or you might be like this. And sometimes even when you see me applying this technique, my hand will even be open. But from here, and for practice, I usually go palm down, and I'm going to swing my arm up. And it looks from the front as if I'm going to the side, but I'm not. I'm really coming forward. So let me show you that with my right hand. See how it's really coming forward. It comes forward. You see that little flex on the wrist at the end? Be careful not to overdo that. I mentioned the triangle before. Let me just mention this now. Sometimes the wrist will move a little bit one way or the other depending on the technique. There are certain techniques where you're going to want to bend your wrist this way or bend it that way. But what you want to do is, if I bend it this way, I only want to go until the forearm to the fist surface is flat. In other words, I don't want to go, see, it's not flat anymore. I don't want to do that. Same thing, if I go the other way, I don't want to bend. If for some reason I'm striking like this, knocking on a door, I only want to come up this far. I want to keep it nice and flat, nice and flat. I don't want to come like that. The minute I come to here, I've lost the structure. I've lost the structure of my wrist. So when I strike out, you see there's that little bit of flex, but not too much. Using the other hand, it comes across and comes out. Comes across, comes out, comes across, comes out. You notice it's about level with my shoulder. Let's put two hands together. Two hands together goes like this. I bring my left hand up. This is the same position as that uppercut, that agezuki. So it's as if I'm doing agezuki and at the same time bring this hand across, and now I pull. Now I'm going to go the other way. Now from here, this position, I'm actually just going to kind of hammer. Hammer, hammer, see it? Hammer. So if I do it from the ground up, from my hands down at my side, you're going to see that the hand that comes up, the back hand, is going to do like agezuki. It's going to strike up and then out. But if I do it from a previous technique, the hand that's out is going to just kind of hammer across like that. From the side, I come up, 1, 2, another one from the ground, 1, 2, or from this position, we go 1, 2, 1, 2. Next technique, Chudan-uke. Next one is age-uke. It means rising counter, rising counter. Hand starts out, we'll do one-handed again, comes across the body, and then you shoot it up like this. See this nice angle here? This is very important. I want my elbow, not like this. Sometimes people do it like that, it's incorrect. I want my elbow tucked in towards the line of my body so that I'm just kind of peering past here. This gives me a good structure. At the same time as I bring my hand up, I get a feeling of hitting mostly with the bottom of my fist. But sometimes you end up turning your hand quite a bit. Again, what you're going to find is a lot of techniques alter slightly depending on what you're doing with them. And that being the case, I try not to get too fussy about particularly how a technique is performed in basics, because if you do it a certain way in basics and then you show the application that fits that way, then you're all right. With the other hand, you come across and then shoot up, come across, shoot up, side view, cross, shoot up. Notice that the feeling here that I like to have is it's almost, you see it almost goes forward and up. There's a variation that sometimes you'll find, which is this, where you kind of circle the hand around and back. That's a slightly different feel to it. And it's most of the time people who do that think they're blocking, and so they're trying to roll with an attack. Unless you have a real fighting application for that, because we just don't talk about blocking. If you block, you're on the defensive. We do not talk about blocking unless you have a real fighting application that involves that slight circling back and just shoot that forward. See how it seems to shoot out at an angle. Now we bring the other hand in from the hand down position. This hand's going to come up again, just like I'm doing the agizuki, like I'm striking upwards with a punch. As I bring my other hand across, you notice this position could be Chudan-uke, but in this case it's age-uke. Now, again from the ground up, I come over here, 1, 2. Let's get the side view on that, 1, 2, and again, 1, 2. Now, if I'm already in position, like I'm doing repetitions, 20 or 30 of these things, then from here what I do is this. I come this way and I bring this hand down. This feels like I'm dropping. You see this? Bang! That's kind of a dropping feel to it. And it can even be done, notice that there you can see the beats. Boom, you can see this moment where I kind of, bah. You can also do that without making the beat, just by, notice how now I'm not even bringing my arm across my body. I'm going to shoot it straight up from my hip. So it comes across this way and up. And that's these are just variations. What you're going to find out when we talk about hip movement and body mechanics is that's what's really important. If your body moves right, the variations will take care of themselves. So you know, what you do is you do the basic technique the way you're told to do it in your class, but understand that each technique has not only several variations, all of which are fine, but also several different uses, all of which are very important. Let's get a side view here. We go 1, 2. This is straight up. I'm coming right off my hip now with 2 beats. You can see that kind of over and up, over and up. Okay, so that's age-uke, rising counter. Now the next technique is called morote uke. Morote means both hands, to counter with both hands. This is a technique that we cannot, and here's it's different. On the others, I was able to show, let's do one hand first. This technique, you cannot do one hand. It is a two-handed technique. Basically, what we're going to do is, we're going to start it as if we were going to do either age-uke or Chudan-uke. I get my hands like this, and then my lead hand, my right hand in this case, is going to come out just like Chudan-uke, just like middle counter. It's exactly the same. But this hand is going to hammer down slightly and end up, from the side view, it ends up tucked into my body, about even with the front edge, like this. It can also be a little closer to the elbow. You can use your little finger, and if you can just touch your elbow with your little finger, that's a real good placement too for this technique. So it starts out like Chudan-uke, like middle counter, and hammers that way. And if I want to do it on the other side from here, I have to do it two-handed, so I kind of hammer across 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's get side view here. So I go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And you can already see that I'm turning my body, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But you can already see that that's happening. The next technique, the next ukewaza is called shoto uke, which means a sword hand counter. There are two versions of Shoto Uke, so we'll do them both. Shoto Uke also is a kind of Morote Uke. You have to use both hands. Here's the first method. This is very simple. You swing both hands back and you swing both hands out. Notice that the final position of the body is very similar to the final position in Morote Uke. Difference, my hands are open. So I go 1, 2, 1, 2. If I'm doing this successively one after another, I go 1, 2, 3. I'm actually switching feet here because it's very difficult. It's hard to do this just in position. Okay? The other type of Shoto Uke is done two-handed. One hand comes out, one hand comes back. See, this has both hands move together. Here's the other way. The other way sets, this hand sets up. It's open, but it's set just like Gedan Barai. Just like downward counter. And the other hand is out, it's open too. And this actually is very similar to the set for downward counter, except most of the time I'm going to bring this hand up a little higher. So let's do a quick comparison. Here's downward counter. Now here's Shoto Uke. Knife hand counter. Notice it's the same, but my hands are just a little higher feeling. Now as I perform the technique, this hand is going to come back. This hand is going to chop out. And again, it's just like Morote, only it's open-handed. And the palm on the lead hand is turned away rather than in. So I go 1, 2. Okay? 1, 2. From in front. 1. See how high this hand is? 2. 1, 2. For strict proper form, you want to put about the knuckles, even with the shoulder. Here's 3 relationships, get 2 out of the 3, you're fine. 90-degree bend in the arm. Knuckles, level with the shoulder. Fist and 1 thumb distance from your body to your elbow. 2 out of the 3, you'll be fine. In actual practice, you know, I don't know, I think I personally come out kind of far from what's considered orthodox correct, but this angle is very important for the striking surface that you use. This is something you'll learn later, but this angle actually it's there for a reason. So if I extend out, you notice I keep the angle of my hand the same by putting another bend in my arm. If it's straight from elbow to fingertip, that angle's right, but if I do this, if I extend it, I tend to bend my wrist a little bit. So a lot of times when I do the technique, you'll see it maybe a little longer. We're not going to worry about those details. Again, I don't want to worry about those details because they're just not that important. The next thing we need to talk about is something that you've already begun to see. That is stance structure and its relationship to the movement of the hips. There are 4 basic stances that we use in the Ryukyu Kempo Tomarite system, and each one of those 4 basic stances has a couple of variations. Even though there are variations, we don't always use them. There's sort of one that we favor among the variants for the most part. The first stance that you learn, the one that's kind of considered the most basic, is called Naihanchi Dachi or Kibadachi. Naihanchi is the name of a formal exercise that you will learn quite a while from now, and this is the stance that's used throughout. But Kibadachi means sideways stance or horse riding stance, something like that. There's 2 ways to do the stance, and they're simply small frame and large frame. One is not better than the other. Small frame stances typically are associated in self-defense with striking techniques, and large frame stances in self-defense are connected to joint techniques where you're trying to drop somebody to the ground. That's really the difference. When I personally do kata, I tend to use a large frame stance because I like to generate a lot of power, more than I really need, but it's partly because I like the feeling of large open movements. To make a small frame stance, you want your feet wider, just wider than your shoulders, as if you could put your shoulders between your feet. I like to point my little toes straight forward, bend the knees, and don't push your knees out exactly, but press your knees into your feet. Your body should be straight. You tuck your hip under slightly, but not too much. So if you get this from the side, a lot of people will tend to do something like this. They'll kind of stick their butt out and lean their shoulders forward. What you have to do is you have to tuck your hip under just a little. If you go too much, then your body collapses this way. If you have it sticking out, then your back is arched. So it's just kind of right there, right in between, nice and straight. Naihanchi Dachi. Now if we do the same stance in a large frame, we come out like this. Now see, I've gone, here's small frame, here's large frame. This is roughly, the distance between my feet is about the same as the inseam, the distance from the foot up into my crotch and down the other side. So you get a little triangle that way. Then I take the triangle and I just bend my knees and sink into it. Very stable feeling. It's a very stable feeling, and you get that from the side. It's nice and straight. Again, I don't want my butt out, and I don't want it tucked under. I want it just right here. Now, there's a little something that you should do in every stance, and that's you should tighten your hips a little bit. Some of the literature on martial arts talks about tightening the sphincter, the anal sphincter muscle. I think probably the best way to think about it is the way my very, very first teacher used to tell me. He said, just pretend you have a quarter twixt your cheeks and you're trying to hold it there. So you kind of squeeze the muscles of your rear end together. And what that'll do is that'll give you a stronger posture. Be careful though that as you do that, you don't allow the hips to ride up too much. Just a little bit of squeezing back there. So, horse stance, large frame, horse stance, small frame. The most important stance, I think, is Zenkutsudachi, means forward stance or front stance. It's important because most of the time when you're fighting, you're going to end up with one leg forward. In the small frame version, from in front again, you notice I have my feet just about the same width as they were when I was doing the horse stance, and I turn my front foot in just a little bit. My back foot's still pretty much straight forward. I bend my knees. In the silhouette, it almost looks like I'm doing the small frame horse stance. And so I get about that kind of width. If you look at it from the side, what you see is I'm just a shade. Let's see if I can show you this. Yeah, that's about a half the length of my foot. If you were to draw two parallel lines where the back of my heel is and the front of my toes are, there's about half the length of my foot between them. My back leg is straight but not locked. Right now I've got it locked. That's incorrect. It should be slightly, just slightly bent, but never so much bent that the knee is in front of my shoulder. It should always be never your shoulder in a forward-facing position like this. Your shoulder should be either right above your knee or even slightly in front of your back knee. The front knee in this stance hovers right over the ground, just to the inside of the ball of the foot by the big toe. So it's right down in here. And again, I want a little bit of pressure into the feet, and I want a little tension in my buttocks. The things that sometimes happen is if people push their knees out too much, their feet roll up and they lose contact with the floor. If people cave in like this, their feet roll up and the outsides of their feet lose contact with the floor. So that's wrong either way. You need good contact with the floor. Now if I take this same stance and just stretch it out a little longer, then I have the large frame stance. Now again, from the side, you can see that it's longer, and that obviously means I'm deeper. From the front, it's going to look about the same width-wise, but I'm actually deeper and lower. So the distance between my feet looks about the same, but you can see that I'm longer because my head is not as high on the screen anymore. That being the case, this stance is going to be the one that I'm going to use either to hit very hard or to use a joint technique on somebody. And this is the stance, this higher stance is the one I'm going to use if I'm doing a quick strike or a pressure point strike just to knock somebody out fast. I'll say it again. I like to train my katas using a big stance. And I actually like to free fight when we spar using a big stance because I can cover more ground. But when I do self-defense applications, I tend to be in a much more upright stance unless I'm doing a joint technique. So one is not better than the other. The next stance is a cat stance. There's really only one way to do a cat stance, so I'll show you right now. Point one foot at an angle about less than 45 degrees. The other foot points straight forward, and then you just take a step. You put all your weight on your back leg and just very lightly touch the ball of your lead foot to the ground, like this. You do this on the side, see that? It's called cat stance or cat paw stance because you're just like a little kitten setting its foot down very delicately. That's the feeling. In a minute we'll talk about doing a front kick. When you do front kick, once you know how to do a front kick, it's a test for your cat stance. If your cat stance is correct, you can do a front kick and your body will hardly move. If your cat stance is wrong, and here's typically what wrong means, the back foot is turned too far out like that, then watch my knee as I do my front kick. Do you see my knee wobble? And it actually puts stress on the anterior cruciate ligament, the ACL, on your knee. It's actually bad for your knee. So I'm not going to do that but those 2 times. When the knee is correctly positioned, nothing really moves as I kick. Everything's very stable, and that's a good test for a cat stance. Very good test for a cat stance. The next stance, by the way, there's not 2 variations, though occasionally someone will do that technique a little higher, or they'll sink into it a little more, but it's the same foot position. So I don't talk about 2 different cat stances. There's just one of those. However, there are 2 versions of what's called the cross-legged stance, kosadachi. One is the front crossover and the other is the rear crossover. To do a front crossover, we start out with 1 foot forward. Here's my left foot forward, and I'm just going to take my right leg and cross it behind. Now what you see what happens is that my right foot points forward, my left foot points forward, my left hip is forward, my right hand is tucked behind. Now watch this. See, I'm lined up right here in front of the camera. Now when I move, you're going to see my body fades to the side. This is especially useful for avoiding things. It's a good way to move the body out of the way. The other kind is a little different. The front crossover means that this time, if my left leg is forward, my right leg crosses in front. Now notice this, my right foot is forward. It points straight to the side. My left hip is forward. It points forward. This stance, this is sometimes called a twisted horse because you have this kind of twisting in your body, spiraling of the body. Let's see both of those from the side. Here's the rear crossover, and then here's the front crossover. And you can do that you can get into a front crossover just by twisting on the balls of your feet. Will take you right into it. Occasionally I've heard that referred to as a reverse cat stance, though it's not that at all. Front crossover stance, rear crossover stance. Those are the 4 stances. Now we get to something incredibly important. Incredibly important. Hip rotation. Let's start out by looking at it from a nice front stance. Nice front stance. Hip rotation. Here's the key. Look at my body. My body pivots back to a 45-degree angle or better. And as it happens, as I pivot, notice how my back leg bends. From my knee to my ankle, doesn't move very much. All of the movement comes between my knee and my hip joint. So it's the top part of my leg that moves, not the bottom part of my leg. And I just twist back and forth, back and forth. Let's get the front view on that. Nice position. I go back, forth, back, forth. Now when I come to the full forward position, my back leg is straight, but my knee is not locked. My knee must be bent very slightly. See this? And you see that it's happening right in the middle. It's very even. This is an even motion. There's no wobbling side to side, which I've seen a lot of times. Also, no caving into the back leg. See this back leg caving in? You got to avoid that. And also, when you turn to the back position, no caving into the front leg. Everything is very stable. If you look at my front knee for just a minute, what you're going to see is my front knee moves slightly forward and slightly back. Slightly forward and slightly back. Slightly forward and slightly back. Now, the key to this technique is generating power. This is about generating power. And the key to generating power is timing. I mean, we set up a punch here like this. I'm ready to do a reverse punch. Here it comes. The power is in the twist of the hip. And that's where we have 2 kinds of knockdown power. One kind of knockdown power is to hit hard. This is how to hit hard. The other kind of knockdown power is to hit right on a pressure point and use energy transfer, and you'll drop someone the same way. You need to know them both. This is the power technique. Let's come in closer for a little bit of detail on the timing. Okay, here we are a little closer so you can see some of the timing issues. Let me explain something about physics to you. Here's the physics of an impact. Some people say, I've heard this said, oh, the equation for kinetic energy is 1/2 times the mass times the velocity squared. That means that if you double your speed, you double the power of the technique. That is not true. If you ever hear somebody telling that, tell them to go back and read Newton. They got it wrong. What that means is, it means it takes 4 times as much energy to punch twice as fast. That's why if you're doing slow punches, you can do these all day. But the minute you start punching fast, you get tired. It takes 4 times as much energy to punch twice as fast. That is not about power. This is about power. The equation for power in physics: mass times acceleration. That means that how much mass is moving at the moment of impact and how much it's accelerating as it hits, that's your power. That's it. Now this is where almost everybody who understands something about hip motion still gets it wrong. What they do is something like this. They'll do one of 2 things. I've seen them both. Here comes one. Let me show you that from the front. Watch my hip. You're going to see my hip goes forward and then back. Forward, back. Okay? Here it comes. You even see my elbow fly out. It's very common in a style called Wado-Ryu does that. I've seen some Shorin-Ryu do that. I've seen a lot of Taekwondo do that. It's wrong. Here's why. Watch my hip. My hip is mass. This is mass. Mass times acceleration. Mass right here. When I turn, that's mass moving. If I go boom, that's mass moving away, not towards. If I whip my hip this way, when I hit, my hip is going the other way. My mass is going away from what I want to hit. I'm actually drawing power away. If I bring somebody with armor in here, now you won't be able to see the top of his head, but that's okay. Now watch this. There's the armor. I'm going to whip my hip. Gee. Nothing happens. If I want to hit him, if I want to knock him over, I have to drive my mass through him. It's got to go through. If it doesn't go through, it doesn't count. And the secret to making it go through is that at the end of the technique, everything must be moving. So here's the other mistake a lot of people make. What they do is this. They start their hip and their hand at the same time, and they go. Now that's much harder than the punch I just threw where I whipped my hip the other way, but it still didn't do anything. Here's why. Because what happened was my hip, watch the motion of my hip. That's pretty fast. Now look at the punch. That's much slower. So I start them at the same time. Ah! My hip has stopped moving. My hand is free falling. This is ballistic. It's just on its way. It's just sailing. This works great if you're throwing a baseball, because that's how you throw a baseball. You throw your hip and whip it through the body, but this does not work if you're trying to punch somebody. If you want to punch somebody, you've got to get your power to go through them. The way you do that is get the timing right. Here's how to get the timing right. There are only 2 ways. One way is slow the hip down, like that. I mean, you can see even slow the difference this makes. Slow the hip down. This is slow. This is a slow punch, and still the reaction in his body is much bigger than what you were seeing before. Slow the hip down so everything moves together at the same time. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, that's what you do if you're punching what's called consecutive punching. If I do 1, 2, 3, I slow my hip down so it moves perfectly with my body. Okay, now that's important enough for me to stop and stress it again. Whenever I do consecutive punches, anytime you're doing combination punches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, you move everything together. In slow motion, everything must move together. Let's see that in front. See, the hip and the body move together. They turn together. They have the same speed to them. Boom, 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 like that. That's how you do consecutive punching and make sure they still hit pretty hard. Now, if you want to hit with power, one punch, everything you got, the timing changes. You see, when I slow my hip down, I'm actually slowing down. See, what's the equation? Mass times acceleration. Acceleration has to do with velocity. It's how much your velocity changes. Okay? Well, obviously, if my hip is moving slowly to match the speed of my hands, the velocity of my hip is reduced. So if I want to hit hard and I want to keep the velocity of my hip as high as it will go, This is how you do it. See that? I wait till my elbow gets here. In other words, I wait essentially until I'm in the same position I would be in for Morote Uke. I come, and then as soon as my elbow brushes into the side of my body, I twist my hip. Because this is about the same. The time it takes for my hip to turn is about equal to the time it takes for my fist to finish that motion. So again, we go back to the body here. Here's my target. Here's my target. If I take, and I'm actually going to give you two different ways to think about this. They both work just fine. I squeeze until I feel my elbow brush the side of my body, and then I drive. That's one way. The other way to think about it, but it's going to do the same thing, is I think about accelerating my fist. I start slow, and it speeds up the whole way. In other words, I think of my fist not like a bullet, where it goes explode and then free falls, but like a bazooka rocket that comes out of the tube slow. It's actually going its fastest when it hits, not when it leaves the bazooka tube. It's when it impacts, that's when it's the fastest. So it comes, I think I start slow and go fast. I start slow, go fast. Start slow, go fast. Now that's going to apply with every technique. Every technique. What if I want to hit with this hand? Same thing. I'm punching off the lead side, which is a little weaker. You don't get the same level of power off the lead side. But if I time it the same way, I still get a nice solid technique. If I don't, you know, if I turn, boom, it just ain't happening. I'm not getting the penetration I need. I need to think, accelerate the hand through, and then I can knock him back. This is the key to power. This is what it's about. So when you're training your technique, okay, you can back up. When you're training your technique, this is a very basic training method. I stand in the 45 position, nice front stance. I extend one hand, other hand at my hip, and then I just feel my way through. I'm going to start real slow. I start real slow. I go 1, 2, to get the timing. See how I kind of slow and I kind of throw my hip right towards the end after I feel the elbow brush. And then after a while, I just pick that speed up a little bit. Like that. That's the key to power. That's the key to hitting really hard. All right, the next thing that we're going to cover is how the hip works when you're doing your ukewaza, your basic receiving techniques, your basic counters. Now, one of the things I want to stress as I show this to you is that first I want to show you that there's two hip motions, but in fact, one of them you don't even have to worry about. The two I call one of them positive and the other one I call splitting. So you have positive energy, you have splitting energy. Splitting energy is the one you have to work on. Positive energy is the one you don't really have to think about. It will come naturally when you do the applications. But let me show you what it is so you understand it. Here's positive energy using Geidan Barayuke, downward counter. If I take my downward counter and see I wind my body up like this, I turn my body to the back 45, and now I'm going to twist my hip towards the front, and I, boom, hammer. Very careful, if you're doing positive energy, you don't turn your body square. You stop your body shy. The reason is that you need a little angle of your hip in case you want to punch with your other hand. So here we go from the side. I crank up like this. Watch the positive energy. Boom. See it? I twist in the same direction. Can be any technique. Twist in the same direction. In fact, when you do this one of the two shuto ukes, that's how you have to do it. But even with the other one, like this, same thing. You can even do morote uke. See, here's morote. Boom. See, 1, 2, positive energy. Whichever way the hip turns, that's the way the hands go. Or at least the hand that's getting the juice, the power. You'll find as you do application, because our first level applications are applications at the white belt level to our basic techniques, those applications emphasize this kind of positive power, so they're very easy to get. You're going to see, you won't even have to think about it. But the splitting, we start that right away. Here's how we do it. Body straight, facing front stance. Let's say I'm doing Geidan Barai. I set my Geidan Barai. My body's square. Now watch. As I twist my hip back 45, I pull this hand, strike out with that hand. My feeling is both ways. Not one way. See, with positive energy, bam, all my power is up front. With splitting energy, it splits. I pull and strike at the same time. I take two directions on my opponent. Back and front. So I go 1, 2. Now lots of times we'll combine that with oizuki punch, or gyakuzuki, reverse punch. I mean, this is called reverse punch when the opposite side is forward. 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. So you see, from here, I just bring my hand up, twist, then twist. Let's get a couple from the front so you can see what that looks like. Forward view. I'm facing forward. My hip is square. My hands are set. I twist my hip this way evenly. This half my body pulls back. This half my body drives forward. I split my energy front and back. I split my energy front and back. Then I can punch. Then I can do it again. Now let's see the next techniques. Same position. Here's churanuke. Set, split, punch. Set, split, punch. Agiuke. Set, split, punch. Set, split, punch. Morote uke. Set, split. Now, if I punch from here, it's a short punch. Punch. Set, split, punch. Set, split, punch. Now, let's try shoto uke. In shoto uke, you cannot split this motion. You only split this motion. So I set, split, and let's do an open hand strike. Set, split, set, split. Okay? So each of the basic ukewazas, with the exception of this one, each of those is done, has the capacity for a nice splitting motion in it. Let's see each of those from the front. Starting with churanuke. Set, split, punch, set, split, punch. Agiuke. Set, split, punch, set, split, punch, set, split, punch. Okay, now let's see morote uke. Set, split, punch, set, split, punch. Okay, now shoto uke. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. See? They all fit. And that's the energy that you have to practice. This twisting the hip back and front, back and front. This is so important, so important, so fundamental to good karate. It really affects everything you do, and it has to be found throughout. Now, having covered this essential thing, we can now talk about the techniques that we test on at 9th Q level. So let's take a look at those now. For each test in our style, as we conduct it here in the Kyushu Jitsu Kenkyukai, each test, you have kata, except this test. This is the only test that doesn't have a formal exercise as one of its requirements. But I almost shouldn't say that, because what you're going to see is a series of basic techniques that you have to do, and it was actually called a kata in at least one style that I know. It's known as ten no kata, and it's just these basic movements. This is very, very important stuff. All done using front stance, just a little bit of a horse stance in one movement, but basically we're just going to be doing front stance the whole way. When we do front stance, remember, we make a nice little C-step action. Basically what happens is this. We start, I'm going to show them to you always from a standing upright position, but I want you to understand that as you perform techniques, as you do them in the dojo, and as you are asked to do them in the test, you will probably be doing them successively. In other words, from upright standing, I'll just step forward and do oizuki, but in actual practice, I might start here and be moving 1, 2 across the floor like that. So you need to be aware of the fact that I'm going to show you from just a standing, one step forward and then on the other side, whereas in practice you'll be going step, 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 step. And that's also how it tends to be in kata. We have 3 or 4 moves together. The reason that I'm doing it differently than the training is just because this is where it is for fighting. See, I'm standing around, some guy gets in my face, and bam, I step forward and I hit him. That's how fighting goes. I have to defend myself, so I take one step. I don't get to go, hi-ya, ha! No one actually fights like that. You can't do that for real, but you can from here step forward and make your attack or defend yourself as you need. So the first one is oizuki, which means to step and punch. Suki means punch, oi means chasing or running after, something like that. what we do, it's real simple. We're just going to step forward. I'll do right-handed first. I step forward with my right leg, and what I do is I pretend like I'm a cowboy in an old cowboy movie drawing my 6-gun. I'm going to make a slight motion out with my hand because I like to have that nice two-way action, but lots of times in actual fighting you don't get a chance to get the other hand out. But for basic technique I want to have nice, lots of power. So I'm going to reach out with this hand and I'm going to draw a gun and fire. So I draw, fire. Little thing on timing I want to mention to you. As I step forward, my hip is perfectly square. But as I punch, my hip angles slightly. See, this is positive hip rotation. See, just like I was going to do this. I maybe don't quite come as far as I would if I was getting ready to do a reverse punch, but still, that's what's going to happen. I step forward nice and square, and then as I punch, I twist my hip just a little bit. So here I stand. I get ready with my 6-gun. I go, one, boom. See the slight angle in my hip? I get ready with my 6-gun, 2, bang. Now here's a trick. Here's a trick. Move the feet before the hands. Don't go, because your hand's always faster than your leg. Start to drop your weight and step forward and move your body forward first. Then make your hand go last, fast, so it catches up, so it, boom, they land at the same time. There's a reason for that, because your opponent, if your opponent is, let's say I've got this guy, he's in my face, and I realize I have to hit him. And I have to hit him before he hits me. He's maybe yelling at me and he's waving his finger at me and stuff. If he sees me start to move, if he sees me move from here, he's going to react to that. But when I move my body, there's nothing coming at him. See, there's no hand coming at him, nothing in his face. But he sees this reaction, he's going to do this. See, that's his natural reaction, is kind of go, whoa, you know, just to back up just a teeny bit. And that's just going to set my range, bam, so I can get this shot to come flying in there. He won't even see it coming. It comes from nowhere. Sometimes in a very, very close situation too, just as a comment, the idea of the 6-gun, see, listen, look at how long this takes. All I'm going to do is just hit him. If I go, okay, now I'm going to hit him. All right, here comes. Right. See how long that takes? Boom. But if I just 6-gun him, yeah, it doesn't take any time at all. Just boom, and it's there before he can move. So if all I do, forget the stance, forget the step, just draw that 6-gun, I'll hit him fast. He will not be able to stop it, provided I can touch him. This is a bottom line. If you do a technique like drawing the 6-gun punching, if you can touch a guy, you can hit a guy. If you can touch him, you can hit him. That's the good news. The bad news is he can do it to you too. So what we count on is that if he's attacking me, he's a bully. And what does a bully do? A bully always follows this procedure. He intimidates, then he perpetrates. In other words, he thrives on my fear. He wants to get me afraid. He wants to get in my face. He wants to intimidate me first before he beats me up. In fact, he may not even beat me up, because intimidation is so effective, he might just stop there and get his jollies that way. So while he's intimidating me, he's moving closer. If he's out of range, I don't care about him. If he's standing there 6 feet back, you know, where I can't reach him and he can't reach me, what do I care? I don't care if he's, whatever he's, I'm going to beat you up, I'm going to get, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, because he can't hurt me from there. It's not until he gets in my face. And as soon as he's close enough, see, now he's too close. Well, he's not too close. He's just too close for a punch. He's great for elbows. But he starts walking towards me, and when he gets there, when he gets that close, you hit him. You don't wait the minute he's close enough. Now, that means that when he's out 6 feet away and he says, I want to get you, then you need to be saying, hey, I don't want to fight, sorry, let me buy you a beer, just whatever. Anything that's, and make sure it's loud enough that everyone around hears you and they all know you didn't want to fight. So they know you're not starting this fight, you didn't do this, he did it. I don't want to fight. Make sure, I don't care if he hears it, because if he's a bully, and he's coming after me, he's not going to pay attention to what I say. I want to make sure that everybody in the place hears it. I want to make sure that the people who aren't watching hear it. Hey, I don't want to fight. I may even take a step back, so that when everyone turns around and looks, like, I don't want to fight. Oh, no, really, man, I'm sorry. I don't want to fight. And then when he gets in my face, then I drop him. And if it goes to court, and they're saying, who hit first, they'll say, this guy hit first. And then my lawyer will come up and say, did you hear him say, I don't want to fight? Yeah. What'd the other guy do? Well, he walked towards him. Did this guy walk towards him? No. When he got close, he hit him. That's my defense. He came at me. I told him I didn't want to fight. He came at me, so I defended myself. That's the idea. The idea is not for me to play any kind of games. I'm not going to get into a pushing match with him. I'm not going to try to do some fancy schmancy technique, you know, to show my great superiority in karate. I'm certainly not going to tell him I know karate. Better, hi-ya, I know karate. Don't come any closer. That's the stupidest thing you can do, because he may have a gun in his back pocket and he goes, oh, you know karate? Well, in that case, I'm going to shoot you. All I tell him is I don't want to fight. In fact, if I look timid, afraid, I'm sorry. I'll apologize. I'll say anything to get out of it until he gets in range. The minute he comes in range, and that's how I think. I think, okay, all right, now you're getting closer. Okay, I can kick you. I can punch you. I can elbow you. See, that's how I see it. And it's at what point do I make my move? And it's not when he moves. If I wait for him to hit me, it's too late. I got to hit him first. I have to hit him first. Basically, at more than half the time, the guy who hits first wins. So you want to win self-defense? Hit first. This is especially important if you're a smaller person being attacked by a larger person. You know, a young person being attacked by an older person, an aged person, elderly person being attacked by some young punk, a woman being attacked by a man. He's counting on the fact that he's bigger and stronger. If we get into a toe-to-toe match, especially if he gets that first shot in, I lose. The only way I can win in that situation is to take him out first. I got to hit him first. And unfortunately, you know, you've heard all this stuff your whole life. Well, don't throw the first punch. You know, all this stuff about letting the other guy throw the first punch. And like we asked that question, well, who threw the first punch? Well, he came at me. I threw the first and only punch. The fight was over, but he came at me. I did not come at him. That's how I approach it. All right, I've gotten way off the subject. Let's get back where we are. So, basic technique, I wanted you to see how quickly this thing shoots out faster than a person can stop or block. Before they even see it, you hit them. From the front view, I'm standing in a feet apart position and I just step forward. Notice I'm going to step and then punch. I step, punch. Step, punch. And you can do it even with your arms just hanging. Step, boom, and just shoot that out. Now the next technique we do, same side, lead side, Oizuki, but this one is Agezuki, the rising technique. And here's a slight difference. The only time we'll do this stance-wise is that I'm actually going to use a horse stance, but it's at a very slight angle. So if I do this from in front, it looks almost like, see how close it is to the Zenkutsudachi, the front stance, but it's actually a horse stance. Because this allows my body to get a real nice angle that I want for this rising technique. Again, it's the same thing. I'm just going to draw my gun. I step forward, draw my gun, and strike. Nice. There's a 45-degree angle this way. 45-degree angle. Now, you'll notice, and I'll do this again, you're going to see this, you've already seen it. If you were paying attention, you notice that my horse stance kind of shifted the weight a little bit. And actually, there's a fancy name. If you take a horse stance at an angle and kind of eke the weight just a little bit forward, it's got a fancy name. It's called furudachi. It just means rooted stance. Don't worry about that. Just think horse stance. And if you get a little shift of weight forward, that's great. You can just let the energy go. Just tell yourself you're in a horse stance and don't worry otherwise. On the other side, I step forward, one, boom, strike. Let's see that from in front. I step forward, you're going to see that my body kind of ekes a little bit to the side. See, there's kind of this slight motion. I come, you see that, a little bit of motion this way? That's part of my action. It actually gets me out of the way of his attack. One, bang, and then two, bang. Now, we've already seen that we can do these techniques on both sides of the body. Oizuki means lead hand step. But you can also step forward, and then punch with the backhand. When we do that in basic form, we actually counterwind. So as I step forward, I turn my hip this way, and then punch. I step forward, turn my hip, punch. This is actually very slow. You're not going to do this so well in a fight. But this is a real good thing to know for kata, later on, kata practice. If I just shoot it out fast, I won't get the hip motion. So in practice, I'm going to always practice so I get a nice big hip motion. If I just shoot it out fast, bang, no hip motion. You're going to see in the application then the only difference it makes is going to be my relationship to him, not how much power. Because I'm not going to get any power on this move anyway. I'm going for fast. I want to hit him quick. Now using Agi-uki, uppercut. Same thing, I just step forward, bam, boom. Now this is the quick way, there's no wind up. Let me wind it up. Notice we are in front stance, not in a horse stance like we were when we were doing that technique on the other side. Step forward, punch, power. Okay? Now here's step forward, just a quick one. Bang! Whoops, that was Oizuki. Now reverse punch. And the other side, just quick, bang! Now, nice twist, wind up. You can see my belt flopping, wind up. Lots of power. So we practice really for the power, and sometimes when you're fighting, you have to kind of cut the power just to get the hit in. Those 4 basic punches. 5th technique is Genan-Barai, followed by Gyakuzuki. So I just step forward, and as I step forward, I throw this motion in. I go 1, 2, 3. Other way. 1, 2, 3. From in front. Ready? 1 and 2. Okay? Now, next technique, Chudanuke. By the way, I don't care what order they're in. Though when it was in its original form as ten no kata, as a kata, you have to do it the right order, but it's not really that important. But Chudanuke. So I step forward, I go 1, 2. Now notice that I do the set as I step, and the out strike as my foot hits. That's kind of typically how that ends up. So you get 1, 2, 1, 2. From in front, 1, 2, and 1, 2. Okay, next technique, Age-uke. Same idea. Step forward, 1, 2, 1, 2. From in front, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, just again to stress, if I'm doing this in the dojo floor, or even in testing, it's probably going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, like that, and working the way across the floor. You may also be asked to go it backwards. Backwards is good practice physically, bad practice tactically. I never want to go backwards. Why? Because I want to get away. If I'm attacked, I want to escape. This is a very important rule of self-defense. Strategy. Very important rule. Whatever way you want to go, always go the other way first. So if I want to escape, I go forward until either he's on the ground and then I can turn around and run, or he's pushing me away, go, get away, get away. In which case I can turn around and run. So I always go forward. So practicing backwards is fine, but we want to focus on moving forward for strategic reasons. Okay, so that was Age-uke. Now let's look at Morote-uke again. Same idea. I'll just step forward 1. Notice the position of the hands. Now from here, my Gyakuzuki just comes, this is kind of nice, I just squeeze my elbow into my hip and just drive them both same time. 2. From the front, give you the front view. 1. Whoops, that time I did Chudanuke. Let's do it again. Morote. See, they're the same. That's the thing. See, this is Chudanuke. Here's Morote-uke. See how close they are together? Fortunately, there are several variations on Morote-uke that allow you to come up with different ones. So just let me give you one as long as you're doing it. Watch this. 1. See that? Bang, bang. That's another. That's a variation. See that one from in front? I'm just going to hit with this hand. I go hit, 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 hit. Then right from here, punch. Okay, again, hit, hit, punch. Okay, next are Shota-uke. We'll do first the 2 hands together version. This is always done in cat stance. So we do it like this. 1, 2. See how my body drops? 1, it kind of comes up a little. 2, drops. So if I'm standing, I go 1, my body is, I kind of turn, my body stays upright, then I kind of drop into a nice cat stance. 2, 1, 2, front view. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now don't be in a rush. See, a lot of times people think they have to hurry. Like the guy who, the person who reaches the end first wins. No, each piece, quick. But don't worry, Don't be in a rush. Hit, hit. That's what's important. Each one is a hit. You're going to see that. Each one's a hit. So as long as you get that first hit in, you got a second before the second hit. Now the other kind of shota uke, the one with splitting energy, I step forward 1. And from here we can do open hand strike, 2. Okay, front view. 1, 2. Okay, so those techniques, those basic hand techniques, you'll be tested on. The next thing that you'll be tested on will be your kicking techniques, and so that's what we have to cover now. Kicking techniques. Okay, we're going to talk now about kicking techniques and chop off the top of my head so that you can concentrate on the kick itself. The first kick and the most important kick is called meigiri. It means front kick. It's executed this way in 4 counts. We go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of bend my knees, my feet, my heels are together. Actually my feet are turned out exactly as if it was the back leg of a cat stance. That's what I do. I'm going to pick up, I'll start with my right leg. I pick up my leg, and notice I pull my toes up. Now, some people can really pull their toes up because they're very flexible there, and I can't do that, but I'm not letting my toes hang, and I'm not letting my foot hang like this. You really have to avoid that. Parallel to the floor, nice high knee, and then I just push the ball of my foot forward, and then I pull it back. Now notice that as it goes forward, I push my toes forward. So in other words, I do not do this. Okay? I don't do that. And notice that as I bring it back, I pull my heel back so I don't go like this. I also do not kick this way, which I've seen a lot of times. That does not work. You'll break your ankle, you'll break your toes. I promise you every time. And pick the leg up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the next thing that you learn is to take that into 3 counts, where you go 1. Now watch my knee. I'm going to raise my knee. 2. See that snap? 1. Now watch my knee. 2. And 3 is setting down. 1. Now watch. 2. See? Snap. Out, back. Out, back. In one smooth motion, it looks like this. See? Here's the secret. Try to kick yourself in the butt. Kick yourself in the butt on the way out and on the way back. Now actually, to be honest, I really try to kick myself in the butt on the way back. And I try to get my knee high on the way out. High knee, kick myself in the rear. It'll just relax your leg. That's the key to that technique. Now, before we talk about how these techniques are used, let's go on to the next technique. It is called Naihanchi-geri. I've mentioned before that Naihanchi is a formal exercise. This kick is featured very heavily in that kata. It's done this way. It comes up just like meigiri, just like front kick. And then it does this. Okay? So it goes 1, 2, see? Bang. That way. Now it looks like it's going over there somewhere, but what it's really doing, actually there are a couple of slight variations. One thing it does is it comes in this way and I kick with the ball of my foot on an outward angle. Another thing I can do with this kick is almost like it comes straight in. Bam! As if I'm hitting, say, the shin or the knee. Or I can hook with my heel. So I hook and pull the leg to the outside with my heel. But the basic movement is like that. It comes slightly to the outside. It seems to come from center line out. Now there's another kick which goes from out to center line. That's called moashi-geri. A lot of styles do a full moashi-geri like this. That's kind of a Japanese invention. But it's good to practice, but for testing purposes, I'm only concerned with the more effective angle moashi-geri. See that? So if this kick, Naihanchi-geri, has this angle, moashi-geri is just the outside in angle. From the side, it just looks like this. It's a front kick. It's just taken on a very slight outward angle. So what you really have is 3 front kicks. One front kick comes from the inside out, one comes straight up the pipe, the other comes from the outside in. And that gives me a drill. My drill goes like this. 1, 2, 3. See? What I'm doing is I'm rotating between the 3 kicks. These are the 3 main front snapping kicks that you're going to have. Then we also have side kick. One of the things about side kick in our system is that it doesn't look as pretty as side kicks in other people's system. We need to just back the camera up a little teeny bit as I'm talking, because you need to be able to see the foot positions. To start out with, when you walk, yeah, back it up. You've got your feet flat on the ground, right? We don't walk up on the inside edges of our feet. What we do is we walk flat-footed. So if I'm walking flat-footed, what I need to do is I need to kick flat-footed. Some styles teach to kick with the edge of the foot. Edge of the foot. If you do that, you will break your foot. Now that's a technique that is, again, so the kids don't hurt each other. There's only one reason to do that in real fighting, and that's if you are wearing wooden sandals. Geita, the Japanese sandals, because they have a wooden edge. And you can bury that wooden edge into somebody. Okay, that will work, and you don't have to hit them very hard, because if you hit them hard with that technique, you'll break the smallest bone in your foot, which is the 5th metatarsal. You just break that, you'll twist your ankle all up. That's how we kick. Here's how you do it. I'm going to kick low, not high. You'll see in a minute all the kicks are low anyway. I'm going to kick low. My supporting foot points straight forward. I put a little bend in my knee. I pick my leg up, and I just kick. Now notice how my toes point up a little bit. See that? Let's get a side view on that. See the angle of my foot? I'm hitting with the bottom of my foot. Bang. If I kick higher, so if I'm here, if I start to raise my leg up, pretty soon what has to happen is I have to rotate my supporting foot about the time I get parallel to the floor. I have to rotate my supporting foot so I don't twist my ankle. As I rotate my supporting foot, my hip angle will change, and you're going to see my foot go from this to this. So in other words, I'm here, here, there. See the rotation? Now my foot's flat. That's what most people's kick looks like, because they're kicking high. Well, kicking high is great practice, but it's not very useful in a fight. Don't kick high in a fight. We keep our kicks low. So almost all my side kicks are down here, and that's what you have to be tested on. That side kick, not any kicks up here. Kicks up here are great. But if you want to do that kick as part of your training constantly so you look wonderful, go to a school that teaches you sport karate. This is for fighting. Fighting kick is low. It's not as pretty, but it's where it works. It's where it works. So basically, though, you have those 4 kicks. That's kind of what it's all about. You have Megeri, you have this slight angled Mwashigeri, you have Hachigeri, and then you have Yokogeri. And that's about it. That's pretty much where you're going to be. Now let me show you something real quickly about kicking and kicking range. Here's a mistake that people make all the time. I stand back here, he's way back there. This is kicking range, right? Because I can't punch him, but I can kick him. Here's how I kick him. I go, see me reach? And in fact, there's no question that this is pretty powerful. If he stands up a little bit so that I won't hurt him, and watch my hip, you know? I can give him a good hard push with that way. Well, if you throw in some nice body mechanics, you can hit really solid with that thing. But he can see that coming a mile away. The minute I move this leg, he sees it. He sees it. Kicking takes a long time. I mean, compare how long it takes for me to just do this and to do this. The kick takes longer, so I got to hide the kick. The only way to hide the kick is to kick from about right here, because if I'm this close, he cannot see it coming. Now, this seems like way too close for a kick. Well, it does if I think that what I have to do to kick him is have my leg out here. I don't. I kick him, boom! So my leg is bent when I hit. The straightening of the leg, that's the power going through his body. I actually hit here, and then everything drives through after that. Well, what that means is the kick is really coming up. A front kick does not go this way. In other words, a front kick is not a kick like that. A front kick is a kick that comes up. See the angle? Did you see how it angled up and almost just catching underneath the armor? If he was bent over slightly, we'd get the perfect, that's the perfect angle. See that? Bang! And look at this. I'm kicking him way down here, but look where my knee is pointed, right up on his chin. So if, okay, now he steps away. See how high my kick went? So if it looks like I'm kicking to the head, I'm kicking to the stomach. If I kick to the groin, bang, my knee's pointed at the chest. If I kick to the knee, boom, my knee is up here about stomach level. So if you see a style of karate and they say, well, we're going to do groin kicks now, and they're pointing their knees down there and doing that, nothing is happening. Here's why. if you point your knee at what you want to hit, there won't be any power. Now here's how I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to get right here like this. Okay, I'm going to use my shin. I'm going to shin kick, bang, the armor. Not too hard because that's pretty hard armor and it'll hurt my shin, but I just want you to see the idea. If I aim my knee and I kick, because nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. But now I'm going to aim my knee past. I'm going to aim my knee over here somewhere. Past his body. See the difference? Okay, so let's say it's a front kick. Let's angle him down, get a nice target here. He's just being my victim. I do a front kick, so my leg is, I aim my knee at what I want to hit. All right, now I'm going to aim my knee past what I want to hit. All right, that's a totally different technique. The knee must be past your target. So if this is my knee and this is my foot and I want to hit this, I don't go, I go boom, and that's energy through. What that means is, even though it looks like I'm going bang, I'm really kicking right here. And that's as close, if I can touch him, I can kick him. This is, in Okinawan karate, in Japanese karate, this is kicking range. Boom! In Okinawan karate, this is kicking range. And I use kicks with hands. I go bam, bam, boom. And that's Nahachigiri coming right in here, bang, inside the leg. Inside the leg. So, kicks are low. You can't see them coming. Especially if I do this first. Anything up here to distract. Boom, bam, there's a front kick right to the groin, but look where the knee is. And that'll go right through him. It's easy to drive the kick through when your energy is committed not to the target, but through the target. Maybe that's an aphorism you should remember. Don't aim to the target, aim through the target, because that's how you're going to knock somebody down with your technique, with your power. And what that means is that for kicking, my targets are all down here. I kick the groin, I really kick the leg a lot, inside the leg, outside the leg, knee, inside and outside. And as you learn the art, as you learn our art, you will learn not only just in general inside, outside, but right there. I mean, I aim for a specific target. A Kyusho point, a pressure point. We strike the point, sorry. We strike the point to do the job. But at first, you just go ahead and blast away, inside the leg, outside the leg, on the shin, in the groin. And you know what? The knot of his belt is about as high as I care to kick. Now, when we free spar, we put on lots of armor. Well, okay, sure, then maybe then what you do is when you're free sparring, you aim for the armor, because that's the rule. You have to aim for the armor. Okay. But for real fighting, the belt down. In fact, you can even kick the ankle. Boom! That's very powerful and very effective. And you never think of it. In a fight, he cannot see that kick down there at his ankle. Boom! And that's just Nahachigiri. It's just aimed low. It's just aimed low. So we have our kicks, we have our punches, and our hand techniques. And I just want to point out that we can put them together. Okay, back up. Let me just show you a couple mixed together combinations, because not at your 9th Q test, but at some point you'll be asked to mix them together a little bit. And mixing them together, you might be asked to do, all right, now do Megiri front kick, step forward, Oizuki punch. That would be a combination. Or you might be asked to do step forward, Gedan Barai, kick with the back leg, punch. These are all using Megiri. Or you might be asked to do, say, Shuto, then Nahachigiri, boom. From Nahachigiri, we come right into a twisted horse with an uppercut using Agyuki. So that looks like from in front. I go 1, 2, 3. So you might be asked to put combinations together like that. These techniques work together. But at this level, the kicking techniques we don't treat the same way as we do the hand technique. I'm going to show you application of the hand techniques. The kicking techniques are like the afterthought. Okay, well now go ahead and throw in a kick too. And you're going to see that later on they'll become more and more integral to what you're doing, until ideally when you get to be a black belt and beyond, when you fight, somebody grabs you, you're hitting them with your leg and both hands all at the same time. And that ends the fight in a real big hurry. The next thing we're going to spend some time on talking about is the application to the basic techniques. This is so important. This is where your real fighting is, where your real fighting techniques, your real self-defense techniques begin. The thing that distinguishes, there are a couple of things that distinguish Ryukyu Kempo Tomarite and the Kyushu Jutsu Kenkyukai and the umbrella organization Dillman Karate International from everybody else. And these things are, first, that we really apply our basic techniques in ways that truly work. Truly work. Second, we emphasize pressure points in all that we do. These are the things that make our style stand out. This is why George Dillman, my teacher, is one of the most famous martial artists around, because he came forward with a clear piece of information from the old style karate. He said, this is how, if you're going to understand karate, this is how you have to do it. This is the heart and soul of what you're doing. This is real fighting. And then he applies it to everything, and suddenly moves that never made sense before make all kinds of sense. I just want to show you something just one time before we get into what moves really mean, what they don't mean. Here we are. Now, you notice that we're in the protective equipment. This is some of the protective equipment that we like to wear. There are different styles. When you train, you'll at least have some kind of chest protection on, because we believe in hitting, but we don't believe in getting hurt. I mean, so we wear some kind of protection at all times. All right, so let's say that he's attacking me with a punch, and he throws this punch, and I'm supposed to do, this is what styles teach. They teach to do this. So he punches, I go, and then I hit him with a punch. Because he punches, I step back, and I set my range perfect for that nice punch. Well, nothing happened, because I was too far away. Okay. Well, so then I get hit in the face. I can't do this move. It's too slow. See, it takes too much time for me to come over and connect with him and make one point of contact. I cannot do it. If he really punches fast, I can't stop him. There's nothing I can do about it. I already showed you that. In fact, put your hands up. Ready? Now, you're not gonna, don't let me hit you, okay? Ready? Don't let me hit you. See, he can't stop. Don't let me. He knows I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you right there, okay? Now, ready? Don't let me. Boom. There is nothing he can do about it. And that's not because I'm so fast. It's because we're standing this close. That means if the tables were turned, he'd be hitting me just exactly the same way. That being the case, I don't have time to go 1, 2 when a punch is coming. I barely have enough time to go 1. But that's the essence. But I do have enough time. That's what it's all about. Now here's how we approach our self-defense. I don't want to fight. Now I just want to point out to you that it I don't want to fight, but actually I have already taken control of the situation. Here's how I've done it. First, my hands are ready to go. I'm in a great position here. I can do so much stuff from this position with these hands before he can see him. I'm ready if he grabs for me. I'm ready, yeah, if he grabs for me, boom, it's right there. Oh, okay. My hands are already in position. If he comes for me, my hands are down here. It's too late. It's too late. He'll get me. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm in a great position maybe if he grabs for me, because boom, my hand's right there. I can hit him right in the head. There's nothing he can do about it. I can keep him back. I can do so many things from my hands here. Now, let's say that I was here and he suddenly grabbed me. And maybe wrapped his arms around me. My hands are trapped. Ah! But with my hands like this and he goes to do the same thing, boom, I got him. Even if he tries to wrap his arms around me, boom, I got him. I don't care. It's because my hands are, this is a great position to be in. It looks, I don't want to fight. That's what I say. But this is a really great place to be. And look at this. If I'm standing like this, he can punch me in the face this way, he can punch me from this side, he can punch me from this side, but if I go like this, he's not going to punch it because there's something in the way. I mean, automatically, I've channeled the punch right down the middle. So not only am I ready to go, but I also know where it's going to come. I also know where it's not going to come. He's not going to hit me in the side of the head because he can't reach it very well. This is in the way already. He's not going to punch unless he's really smart. I mean, if he has his hands up like that, he's got his hands up like this. Only if I really know what I'm doing. See, most of the time I see this as my opening. So face the camera with your guard. See, this is what I see as an opening. I see that as an opening. So he faces me, I see that opening, and I think, punch up the middle. Well, he sees it coming and he blocks it. Only if I really know how to fight do I punch outside that, because he doesn't, see, his hand actually obscures my punch, boom, and I get him. He can't see it coming. So if I'm standing like this, I'm not going to get punched around the outside unless I'm fighting a really well-trained, experienced, and I don't mean street fighter, I mean martial artist, someone who thinks about fighting. Well, he won't be attacking me anyway. The guys who are coming after me is some bully. So I say, I don't want to fight, but I'm all ready to go. And I've created a channel into which I know that attack is going to come. So the move that I'm going to do, which is I'm going to set, and what I'll do is, this is white belt level, 9th kyu. I'm just going to concentrate on one hand. I'm just going to set a Chudanuke, and then I'm going to strike out with Chudanuke, and then I might follow with a punch or something. But even if he punches for my face, I can still do the move, even though I'm going to assume the punch is coming more in here. So he punches, bang! See, I just hit him. Same hand again, I punch, boom! I just pound it down. I punch backhand, boom! See that? I just hit the arm. Now, see, I'm not blocking. This is important. I'm not blocking. I am hitting him on the arm. Now, let's talk about where for just a minute. For convenience sake, I'm going to make this short and easy. Just take the arm. Imagine you have a line here at the elbow bend. You have a line here just above the wrist bend, and one more dead center. Then you have two bones like this. What I do is where this line intersects this bone, I have got 3 points. One here, one here, one here. To put it, it's along what's called the lung meridian. This is your introduction to Kyusho Jitsu. These are all Kyusho Jitsu techniques. I'm just going to aim here, here, or here. So he's going to punch with his side. I don't want to fight. He punches, bam! Okay, do I have to do anything else? No. Now, obviously, that hurts a lot. You look at the red mark, I was right in the middle point. I got him in the middle of those points. So one of the things that we do when we practice, we'll do two things. One is that sometimes we have to hit hard to get the feeling of hitting hard and the feeling of being hit. But sometimes we'll also do this. I won't actually hit him. He'll fake it. He'll react as if I hit him. Now, this is important. If he just stands there and I go, ha! Then, and he doesn't react, I can't do my next technique. Because watch this. Don't move. Boom. Don't move. Just throw the punch, keep squared to me. Watch. Boom! That doesn't look anything like Chudanuke. Throw a punch. Look at that. It just fits. His head comes right down, bam, into that shot. Sorry. Just taking a minute here to apply internal energy, chi, or ki as it's called, to just try to make this better. That's something that's part of the training too, is learning how to undo what you do. Okay, so now he throws a punch. I'm not actually going to hit him, but he has to react as if I did. So he goes, ooh, and he turns his head. Then, bang, I can strike. Now, even with head armor, I only tap. You never pound on the head, even with the armor. The chest armor I can hit, so I can go here, and then I can go ahead and boom, put a pretty good solid shot in there. Because that's what the chest armor is for. So we can fake this out. I go 1, I fake it, 2, I fake that. He reacts to this shot that exposes the side, bam, I hit him right in the armor. So I make contact where I can. We also sometimes use armor on the arms so that we can hit hard. So we could take, here's a piece of, this is actually hockey equipment, just to give you an idea. Different schools have different pieces of equipment. There's all kinds. So this is hockey equipment. And if I we'll just leave that on one side real quickly. Okay, so now, same thing, he punches, bam! Then he reacts as if it really hurt. It hurt a little bit, but then I strike, he reacts to that strike. Here's the armor, boom, I get to hit the armor, he reacts to the armor fall. Look at that. Look at his body position. Now, that's 1, 2, 3, that's your basic technique. Now you got to do 3 more. So I go 1, boom, right? 2, bam! And maybe elbow 3, and we've gone completely off frame. So let's do this again. I won't hit him. We'll take the armor off. I'll fake it. He'll fake it. Now this is very important. He must react as if I really hit him. Boom, bam, boom. Now that one I can do because he's got the armor on. Now I follow up, bam, boom. I keep going. I try to add 3 more. The key is that he must react for real. Now let's test his reactions for a second. Let's see how real they are. He throws a punch. I go 1, bang, 2, bang, boom, boom. Oh, he never fell down those other times. Now here's a very important thing. This is something that actually the military spent a lot of money to learn this. We knew this when we were kids. When we were kids, we used to play fighting with each other. Just about every boy, at least. I don't know about the girls, because I didn't grow up a girl, but every boy I knew used to play fighting. We and we'd pretend we got hit, and then it would be his turn. He hit me. Play is how you learn. So we play. When I do a move, he has to act. He throws a punch, bam, he has to act as if I hit him. Bam, he acts as if I hit him. Boom, he acts as if I hit him. So then I keep going. I'm going to get 6 shots in. I want my first 3 plus any 3 more. The first 3 are set. The next 3 are whatever. Depends on where his body is. So he throws a punch. So look, this is I come to the outside. 1, that changes the angle. 2, I throw this punch through him. Now I come on the inside. This change. I'm changing every time it changes. Here's a knee shot, and we're off frame again. Maybe he throws a punch on the same side, but I come now to this side. Bam! Totally different angle. Now watch this. Instead of stepping forward, I just half step into a cat stance. Boom! Now look where he is. He's in a different place. I can't do the same combination anymore. So maybe from here I'm going to hammer down. Bang! Open hand to the back, and then let's do a stomp kick. Now the idea is that in a real fight I might not do 6 moves to somebody, because if I just hit him on the arm and he goes down and I can escape, I will, but I want to be trained to keep going if I have to. And the key is that he must react as if it's real. Now what we try to do is we put the armor on so that we can make some of the shots for real, even though some of them are pretend. And that's part of what we're doing. So now, let's just talk about each of the moves. I've already given you a hint of what Chudanuke is about. You've already seen it's not blocking. Let's start out, Oizuki. Oizuki, this is the straight punch. Guy is in my face. He's maybe yelling at me. He's getting on me. He's wagging his hand, and I realize, okay, I'm going to get hit here. He's got one leg forward. He's got a leg forward. So I got to get on it. What we're going to strive for in all of our basic techniques is 2 points of contact. Everything I do, I want to make 2 points of contact with my opponent. Here's my first point of contact. I step on his foot. Here's my second point of contact. I punch him. Look at what happens to him. Now, actually, you can break a guy's ankle doing this. He might just fall over when we get a broken ankle. Now, I haven't hit him hard, and it's through the armor. But look at the position he's in. If I then follow up with anything else, I got 2 points of contact, and maybe all I do at this point is just come in with a knee. Bang! I actually have to get off his foot to safely follow up. In real life, I would just stay there. So I hit him, and I can follow up with something. Front kick, maybe to the back leg. Then come down here, drop an elbow on him. Boom! Look at where he is. This is a perfect time to follow up to the back of the head with an open hand. So we just keep going. But it begins with the fact he's in my face, my first self-defense technique. I'm looking at this guy going, oh, Lord. Now watch this. You see how he was coming up with this hand. So I step on this foot. This is where the uppercut, the agiyuki, comes from. Because when I do agiyuki, you see, it allows me to cover my body a little bit. And I hit him. Bang. See his reaction? He goes back. He loses his balance. I follow up. Bang. Elbow to the chest. I go for 3 more techniques. I go for 3 more. Now in the course of practicing, you'll learn 3 more, 3 more. And your reactions will get real good. He's in my face. He's in my face. I step on his foot. I hit him, straight punch, bam. Or I step on his foot, hit him, agiyuki, uppercut. Or I do reverse punch, bam. Or I do reverse uppercut, bam, like this. Okay, now the other hand, don't worry where your other hand goes. Okay, your other hand will find itself. Just don't worry about your other hand, it will be fine. That's what the first 4 are about. And what you're practicing is bang, finding his foot. That's the key, is finding his foot, not how hard you hit. Do you get his foot? 2 points of contact. Now we go to Geidan Barai. Geidan Barai. Here I am, I don't want to fight. He punches on this side, 1. I hammer his arm. Okay, 1. Now watch this. I hit. Now, whenever you hit a guy like that, he's gonna drop his arms down near where he got hit, and look where his head is. So here comes my punch. Now I did not punch him in the head. I want to be real clear on that. I punched him in the neck. I don't punch him in the head because I'll break my hand. If I'm going to hit him in the head, I'll use an open hand technique. So if I do the same move, he throws a punch, I go 1, 2. Now I'm going to hit him in the head, open hand, bang, right in the ear. That's good. Okay? He throws a punch, 1, 2, folded him down. This is a punch to the neck. Now I get 3 more shots. I get 3 more shots, so what are they? Here comes my first shot, knee strike, boom, right here. Here's my second shot, elbow down, boom. That's probably going to lay him on the ground. He hits the ground. My third shot, stomp. Now, would I really do that in a fight? Probably not. I'd probably stop long before I got to here, but I need to be prepared to go all the way, so I practice for the 6 beats. Okay, so real slow motion. 1, hammer it across. 2, strike low. 3, punch the neck. Then follow up with 3 more techniques. There's Naihachigiri driving his knee to the ground. Okay, then here's open hand, back of the head. Then stomp. Okay. All right, we've already seen, but let me review slowly. Churanuki, the basic assumption, he's punching over here. Is that like forward? He punches on this side. I go, I don't want to fight. I hit down. When I hit, bang, his body turns, exposing his temple. I hit the temple. Then I punch to the armor. Now as I do this, I step forward because I want to penetrate. So again, he throws the punch. I go 1, bam. He reacts to that shot. I hit him, bam, that knocks him back. I dig in, hit him with that reverse punch. Now I follow with 3 more techniques. 1, 2, 3. Any 3 techniques, it doesn't matter. Next one is going to be age uke. Now the other 2 I just assumed that he was just throwing a punch at me. Now let me assume that he's grabbing onto me. He grabs me. Maybe he's going to punch me with his hand. So, and I'll show you this on both sides so you can see this real clearly. What I do is, first I hit, just like I did before. Don't worry about this arm. I hit this arm. Bam! Brings his head down. Now I step forward and I take my forearm and I go boom! Drive him up like this. Look at how that stretched him out. Then I can punch him. In this case, because of the angle we're at, punch into the kidney, punch into the floating rib. This is a short, like an uppercut, really. Bam, now at this position, what's going to be my follow-up technique? I get 3 more. 1, how about a knee shot there? 2, how about an elbow shot here? 1 more knee, right in the back. Okay. Again, once you get past the basic technique, obviously you're going to find yourself doing incredibly brutal things. So in a real fight, you have to think, do I need to do this? You have to be trained to do it, but also trained to think, do I need to do it? And part of that is why we do it this way. The first part of the action is trained. It's automatic. Guy grabs you. In fact, he grabs me. I don't wait for him to get ready to punch me. I just go bam, bam. I just assume he's going to punch me and go right to it. And let me show you why on this side. Let's say he grabs over here. Let's be real careful about the microphone. I hit him. Now watch, he's going to punch me. I'm going to show you something. He's ready to punch. Just watch this shoulder. See how the shoulder kind of pulls away? That's called a cross-extensor reflex action. If I hit this, and it's pretty red, I don't want to hit it, but if I bang on it, it'll turn his body like this, so he can hit me. Now, let's look at the technique, this technique. If I come up with this, boom, see how my head is actually protected. Now, I can also do a variation. I want you to see the variation. I go 1, boom, I hammer the temple. Also protects my head. It's just going to depend on how far his body moves. When he grabs me and I hit him, he comes way forward, I'm going to get my forearm right in his neck and drive up like this. Then I'm going to try a short punch, bam, right here into the edge of his armor. Then I get 3 more. 1, there's my knee to his knee, bam, that brings him down. Here comes an elbow, right to the head. And then let's do 1 more elbow. So that presumption is that someone is grabbed. Now we start dealing with, again, somebody's grabbed me. A different technique, a different idea. See, the first idea was, as he goes to punch me, what I'm doing to his arm keeps him from hitting me, and also, this action protects me. Now, I'm going to give you a very important principle. This is about power. Let go for a second. Here's my power. I'm strong right in here. But the minute you take my arm across center, or move my arm outside of the edge of my body, I'm weak. So that means that I'm strong here, but I'm weak over here. So if he grabs me, especially if he grabs me two-handed, as long as I'm here, I'm in trouble. But if I just move over here, see, now he's weak. So if I face the camera, you can see this. He grabs and pulls me, I step 45. You see? The minute I do that, I've taken all of his power away. And I can do anything I want. There's nothing he can do about it because I've taken out his power. Now let's say he was going to punch me with his hand, right? Now look at this. He can still hit me, but it's much more difficult. It's much harder for him to reach me over here. So that's where the next technique is morote uke. what I do is I'm going to hit him on the outside, on this muscle on the outside of his arm with this hand. So I hit, boom, this way. See, and that's what happens when you get good at it. This is Kyushu Jitsu. But even if you don't, you just bang him and you try to drive his elbow towards the center of his body. Here's why. Watch this. Let's face forward. Just put your arm out like this. Now just watch his body. Okay, first let me just point out that when I move to the side, this is the angle. I'm over here, and then that's the angle of his body. Now watch this. I'm just going to push his elbow in. See how his body turned? Okay, so his body did the same thing. So two actions of mine. One is moving this way, gets me to 45 on him. The other, if I hit him, bang, gets me to 45 on him. So, but I do them both so that I'm covered. And I hit him, bang, here, his body turns. At the same time, I strike up. And what I'm doing, actually, we'll just aim this either for the neck or for the jaw. Neck or jaw. So he grabs, he's maybe going to punch, I go, bam! That's morote. That's morote uke. Let's do it on the other side so you can see he grabs, he's going to punch, boom, hit, boom, strike. Okay, again he grabs, one, see that? Just like that. 1, 2. And if you see, this is it. This is morote uke, just exactly what you practiced. If he grabs with 2 hands, I still do the same thing. The only difference is I want to make sure that I don't try to come up between his arms. So as I hit him over here and go in this direction, I'm going to bring this hand over the top. So I go 1, 2, strike. To go the other way, I'm going to go 1, 2, strike. Okay, see that? Now you notice as I'm doing these moves, do you see how my stance is upright? We talked about before, the low stance is for power or for joint manipulation. This is a striking technique, so I'm using a more upright stance. That's the difference, going back to something we talked about earlier. Now, here's the next technique. Shuto uke. Shuto uke, these two shuto ukes is a chance, you see, we're hinting at things that you're going to study in much greater detail later on. All of these techniques are chosen not just because they work, but also because they lay a foundation for techniques that you're going to do as you progress in the art. 2 hands, using 2 hands at the same time. This is a good example of using 2 hands. He throws a punch. This is going to be more like a hook punch. Now, if I want him to hook punch, then when I go, please don't hit me, what I do is I stand like this. Please don't hit me. Okay? Can you see this? He can't hit me over here. Please don't hit me. I'm setting it up. If I want him to punch me with that hand, I'm gonna angle this way. If I want him to punch me with that hand, I'm gonna angle this way. I look defensive, but I'm not. I'm actually ready to go. I'm setting him up. Please don't hurt me. He throws the hook punch, I strike. And remember I said 3 lines? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna aim for this line and this line, or I'm gonna aim for this and reach over and get that one on the outside of the forearm that we talked about. So he throws, please don't hit, bang, oh, down he goes. And then we just chop him in the neck. Okay, sorry. Now without doing the impact. 1, bang, he reacts, chop the neck. Okay, on the other side so you can see, please don't hit me. 1, see I hit, bang, 2, chop. Now I cheated. We've been doing 2 points of contact. I gave you 3. See, normally we go 1, 2, and then there's our 3rd point of contact. Here I go 1, 2, 3. So he throws a punch. Please don't hurt me. 1, 1, 2, 3. Now let's do a technique. 1, bam, bam, bam. There's 3 hits. You actually just saw an advanced application to a megiri front kick. Snuck in there. So you rewind the tape and you watch it again. Here's the other shoto uke. This is the one that goes like this. This is very important technique because this is going to teach only 2 points of contact, but you're going to use both hands. He throws a punch. I go like this, like that. I use body angling to get away from his power, so I say, don't hurt me. Okay, see it? I hit him, I chop him here, I strike him like this. If he throws the other hand, don't hit me. 1, do you see, here's the set position? The set, this is the chop to his arm. He throws a punch, don't hurt me, bang! Yeah, you can see his body react to the pain. Again, 1, 2. And in this one, I'm going to use a front stance. See, the other one, don't hurt me, don't hurt me, bam, here comes that hook. Here's the cat, because the setup's perfect. But now this time, I'm angling, so I'm actually increasing the distance. Don't hit me, this one comes straight, don't hit me, 1! Now, to reach him, I've got to come forward. Bang, chop. And that might even be a palm to the ear. But the key here is, so nice straight punch. See that? We cut in. Now I'm going to turn my palm over. I'm going to do it real soft so it doesn't hurt as much because I've been beating on him now for a while. Punch again. Don't hurt me. See it? You see it? This is my 2 points of contact. 1, 2. This is a very important part of learning what's going to come later on in your art. That's why we do it like this. Then from here, I get 3 more, right in the back of the leg. 1, bam! Here comes the elbow. 2, boom! That's going to drop him. Then let's finish him off with 3. I get to do that now. This armor is very solid, so I can, boom, drop my knee on it. Okay? Now, let me just show you quickly with his back to the camera so you can see this. He throws the punch. Now, this is the hook punch. On the hook punch, the energy comes from the side. So as he throws the hook, chop! Strike. Now, he throws the straight punch. See how I angle? Strike. That's the difference between the two shuto ukes. Now, from this point, again, there's my knee strike to the back of his leg. Bam! My elbow strike to the head. And let's finish with a stomp kick and then run. All right. Hey. There's a saying that goes, when you reach black belt, you're finally a beginner. And you need to expect that it's going to take you between 3 and 5 years to reach black belt. And a lifetime after that. The things that I showed you on this tape represent many years of my training. But I have learned personally so much in the last 10 years, I can't imagine what I'm going to learn in the next 10 years. So everything we do is just one stop on the journey that, well, I plan to be in the home doing my techniques and still learning more. Kyushu-jitsu is about attacking vital points, the same points used in acupuncture. These points are about energy, energy that flows through the body, what's called ki. The Chinese call it qi. One of the most important things about developing your energy is learning to breathe. So I'm going to take just a minute to show you breathing very quickly. This is so important, but so many people do it wrong. If you look at my chest and you look at my stomach, and I'm going to just lay my hands on there and I'm going to breathe, watch what moves and what doesn't. What I'm doing is called abdominal breathing. My abdomen is going back and forth, my diaphragm is dropping, but my chest isn't moving. Most people breathe like this. That's terrible breathing. You must learn to breathe in your abdomen. Then, as you exhale, you have to do something. I didn't do it at that point. I was just doing this simple breathing. There's another piece. I inhale, fill my stomach up. Then as I exhale, I get a feeling of pressing, as if I'm pressing air into my stomach. So what really happens, I'll show you what's called reverse breathing. Let me fill my chest up. Now watch as I push the air down into my abdomen as I exhale and make my stomach tight. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to inhale. Then as I exhale, I'm going to make my stomach tight. Now let me exaggerate it so you can see what I'm doing. Now I would never do it that much, but so you can see it. Stomach fills with air, then as I exhale, I squeeze just a little. I'm exaggerating, but you keep your breathing down here. That was with tension. And actually, I breathe. Nothing seems to be moving because all of the motion is now internal. Every time you do a technique, you must exhale. Inhale, do your move. When I breathe, I'm just tightening my stomach, just a little. It's kind of like sneezing or coughing. It's very similar to a cough. Just a little. What that does is that keeps the body together. It connects the different parts of the body. Bad karate always looks like disconnection. Bad karate looks like somebody going The elbows all akimbo. That's bad karate. Bad karate is all over the place. Butt's out, body's disconnected. You want your body connected. So it just takes a little, hear it? That breathing. If you go back and listen, you'll have heard it all the way through this tape. Breathing, breathing, breathing. This is so important. This is the beginning of gaining control of your energy and losing the tension that gets in the way of the flow. This tape, this is the foundation. This material will give you a long time of training. It'll take you years just to practice, to perfect. Well, I haven't even perfected the things I've shown you here. It's going to take you, just like me, a lifetime.